So let us continue. This question is divided into two parts. So this is 5a. Find the creep rate for a stabilized zirconia at a stress of 6.2 megapascal and temperature of 1500 Celsius using the data table shown below. You can use the equation epsilon dot is equal to C sigma n e raised to minus q upon RT. Values of creep exponent, activation energy and universal gas constant can be taken as 4. Now this 4 is for creep exponent n. Then 250 kilojoule per mole is the activation energy and 8.314 kilojoule per kilogram mole is of course the universal gas constant, right? So one value, two value, three values. For a strain rate, use a factor of 10 raised to minus 6, right? That whatever value you get multiplied by 10 raised to minus 6 because this is a very small strain at this level and so on, right? So this is it. I am especially explaining this because one time I remember in one of the quizzes and so on or somewhere people read it wrongly. But one value, two value, three values, 1 comma, second comma and the third. Now if we were in a classroom or in an exam hall, then if there is any confusion we can check and so forth. But if the same problem is given online, then people have an issue. Some people who are very sharp, even if it is an online thing and so on, can very quickly write a one-line email and ask the instructor. So, okay, again, take down the values, do this problem again for your practice and go to the solution when you are done, right? Now here the thing is that this table is there and all things are there, but stabilized zirconia is only here. Stabilized zirconia is only here. So the load is 12.4 megapascal. The temperature at which the value is given is 1300 Celsius. And this epsilon dot, the creep rate, is 30 into 10 raised to minus 6 millimeter per hour and so on. Okay. So the data is given and then the equation is directly given here because you don't have to do anything, right? The equation is right here and you can solve for it. Now in the equation usually, right, this Q is the activation energy which is given, R is the universal gas constant which is given, the temperature is given, the stress is there at a given stress rate, what is the value of the strain rate, right? So if you know all of those things, normally the two things that are unknown in the equation are this constant C and this constant N, but N is also given. So only C is the unknown. So you just plug in these values and solve for C. So that is it, right? That this is your equation. And stabilized zirconia, sigma 12.4, T is 1300 Celsius. So convert that to Kelvin. Epsilon dot is 13 to 10 raised to minus 6 per hour from there. N is equal to 4, Q is equal to this, R is equal to this. So just put everything in this equation and then solve for C and you are done, right? So this is not a big issue, whatever units it comes, right? If we have done everything correctly, for example, for mega, you have 10 raised to 6, isn't it? Right? And for this value, you have 10 raised to minus 6 there, and so on. So if, and the temperature is in Kelvin. So if everything is in kilogram, meter, Kelvin and so on, so this is it, okay? So now at a value of 6.2 megapascal, what will be the strain rate? At a value of 6.2 megapascal, what will be the strain rate? So now you have the same equation again, and this C1 you have calculated earlier, right? So just put its value. Sigma raised to n. Now this is the only new thing. Earlier your sigma was 12.4 megapascal. Now your sigma is 6.2 megapascal. So 6.2 into 10 raised to 6. The rest of the things are the same, right? N is 4, e raised to minus q upon RT. Q is the same, 25 into 10 raised to 3. 25 kilojoule. Remember, 25 kilojoule. So 25 into 10 raised to 3. R is still 8.314, but it is kilojoule. So 8.314 into 10 raised to 3. Now my mistake that we had to solve it for 1500 Celsius, but I still solved it that the stress has changed, but the temperature is still 1300. So I have done 1300 is 1573 Kelvin. So therefore I have written this note for you that please, I have done this small error, so I did not want to do the calculation again. But everything else is the same. But here in the temperature, if it is 1500 Celsius, then this 1573 will become 1773, and you will just find it, isn't it? So then, so I recalculated just on my calculator. So this answer, if the new stress is 6.2 megapascal, but the temperature is 1300, 1.875 into 10 raised to minus 6 per hour. But if it is at 1500 Celsius also, then 1.879, a little different and so on. Okay. So this is the question here. No other knowledge is required, isn't it? Because the equation is also given right here. The equation is also given right here. So you are not needed to do anything else. Okay. And of course, I mean, if sometimes you feel that in doing my calculator and so on, I have made an error, then please correct for that. Human errors can be there. Let us go to part B of question 5. A specimen of length 1015 millimeter made of a low carbon nickel alloy is to be exposed to a tensile stress of 70 megapascal at 427 Celsius. Determine its elongation after 10,000 hours. Assume that the total of both instantaneous and primary creep elongation is 1.3 millimeter. So now this graph is given. If you see on the graph, a stress on one side, creep rate on the other side, and a stress in megapascal on one side, a stress in kilo psi on one side if you need, and 649 Celsius, 538 Celsius, 427 Celsius, three curves are given in the straight line region, right? Now they are asking for 427 Celsius, so it means this red line curve is there. Now I remember in one of the quizzes and so on, see, human errors are always possible. I forgot to give this curve. Now there are two possible values, two possible things. When we sign an honor statement that we will not look into anything else and we will not take help from, then that is one side. But if it is there that you see, you can look at your lecture notes and look at your book. So if this graph is the curve is given anywhere in the book, then even with honor statement it is okay. Now in this course on fracture mechanics, I told you guys that the textbook by Anderson is there, but please use the book by Callister, the basic material science book, also as an additional text. So if you go to the Callister book and find this graph, then still maybe it is valid. But if you go to any other sources to find this graph, then this is technically, ethically, morally wrong. That you see, if I am going to my lecture notes or my Anderson textbook, or by a stretch of imagination, I take the Callister book and find this graph there because it was not given in the question, then it is okay. But you see, we mentally, I don't know, I don't want to say that, dishonesty comes easily to people, it does not. But somehow, people just do things, right? The assumption is that if I give a correct solution, then whatever method I am using is right. No, it is not right. So the best thing would be that if the graph is not there, then you show the process in terms of equations, that we will do this first and then this and then this, and this is an unknown value which I will find from the graph If the graph is not given, then that is it. That value is x. The rest of the answer in terms of x is this. And I will give it 100% right. Because that is it. That definitely one value is not there. So I show the whole process, and that one value which I would have found from a graph or somewhere, I would put as x and give my answer in terms of x. The second best thing would be that I write in my solution that doctor, professor, whatever, you forgot to give the graph. I looked at it for it and I found it in the Callister book. So this is the reference. This is figure number so and so or page number so and so in the book in Callister, and I am taking the value from here. If somebody is least careful, he should not go to the internet during an exam. But if you have gone there, then you write it that I found this graph somewhere on an internet. But you see, if you just solve it and you get the exactly correct value that you should get only from this graph, from nowhere else, then what is somebody supposed to understand? That you are a very upright, honest person, or you would just take any value from anywhere and help anywhere. Right? So in the future, in any exam, in any course, if any value is not given, if you are in the classroom and so on, then you do that. Or if you are very quick, you just write an email that this value is not given. And that happened to me in one another course. I forgot a value, they wrote to me and I immediately sent back the value. But, right, so okay, let us go ahead and solve this now. So from the graph at 70 megapascal and 427 Celsius, the epsilon dot, right, a steady state, I am using S for a steady state, right, S for a steady state, is roughly say 4.7 into 10 raised to minus 7 per hour. This is my reading. Your reading may be 4.5, it may be 4.8, right? But it could not be more than 5, it could not be all the way down to 4 and so on. And remember that the power that you have, if it is 10 raised to minus 6 and 10 raised to minus, so this is very critical. So this is the value. Now we know that a strain is a strain rate into time, right? Because a strain rate is a strain upon time. So strain is a strain rate into time. So take this strain rate and multiply it by the time, which was 10,000 hours. So this is the amount of a strain in the steady state region, steady state region. Now a strain is change of length upon length. So change of length is a strain into original length. So this is the strain multiplied by the original length of 1015 millimeter. You have the change in length in the steady state creep region of this. Right? Now the total change in length is change in length in the steady state creep region plus the change in length in the instantaneous and the primary regions of the creep graph. And it was given in the question that the sum of the instantaneous and primary creep delta L is 1.3. So delta L in the steady state creep region is this, and this was given to be 1.3. So the total elongation is change in length. Total elongation total is this value, right? So this is the process that we know that creep is instantaneous plus primary plus a steady state. So the steady state we are finding from the graph and so on. The instantaneous plus primary was given originally. So the total amount of elongation due to creep is this. Okay, good.